Your team come forward by
Victor Lara, I'm a civil senior engineer at NMSU. Andres Alvarez, senior civil engineer.
José Casillas, academic senior student.
and myself, Eduardo Avila, as well a senior civil engineering student. So this is going to be like a history class for you all. So to begin with, we all know that since 1500s to early 1800s, Spain was colonizing a lot of the American territory, which was a new land for them. So as a matter of fact, since 1691, Texas was a different province from Mexico. Like they were not together at all. They were like separate, as I said. So the Kingdom of Mexico is hard to read, but it's right here in this area. So Texas, we all know that it used to be right here. But everything changed after 1821. So after 1821, Mexico earned its independence. So Mexico was a new country. It was facing a lot of economical debt. It was facing a lot of threatening from Great Britain and France. So they didn't want a war at all. And on top of that, they were suffering from a lot of attacks from the natives back then, which this was a Comanche territory, this was an Apache territory. So they were attacking a lot of Mexican territory. So what the Mexican government did, they invited a lot of Anglos to live right here in this territory. So to keep the natives for not attacking Mexican territory. So this was really easy to do because in Texas, the population was only 3,000 people. So as Mexico was a new country, they were like, you know what, there's only like 3,000 people here. Like, we're gonna claim this territory as ours. So that's what they did. So can you go to the next slide, please? So in 1834, Antonio López de Santana became the supreme leader of Mexico. He was the president at that time, and what he did, he eradicated the Congress. So he became the supreme leader. So he was kind of like a dictator. So when Texans knew about this, they didn't like it at all. They didn't want to be part of the Santana's presidency. So what they did, they created kind of like a revolution. So in March 6th of 1836, the Alamo happened, which is a famous battle where Santana went and attacked the Texans, and Santana defeated them in that battle. But a month later, Sam Houston came and he defeated the Mexican army in another battle that they had. So when they did that, Texas became, for saying so, they had like an independence from Mexico. So the Republic of Texas was created. So now Andres is going to talk to you more about that.
After the formation of the Republic of Texas, an ambassador from that territory came to the U.S. to ask for the probabilities of becoming part of the American Union, which they objected because of fear of having a war against Mexico, which they did not recognize. It was an independent. It was independent, the Republic of Texas. So annexation didn't happen until 8 years after, in 1845. Annexation finally happened, and this event actually made like to break diplomatic relations against between Mexico and Texas. So after that, there was a dispute on the territory of Texas. So the Republic of Texas was claiming that his territory was more to the south, all the way to the Rio Grande, but Mexico stated that it was more to the north on the Rio Nueces. So they had a conflict in there. And then, so after that, John Stindl was sent to settle things by offering $25 million in exchange of having the territory all the way to the south in the Rio Grande, but also having the provinces of Santa Fe de Nuevo Mexico and Alta California. So after that, Mexico objected, and that made the war happen, the Mexican-American War. So the war took place like 2 years, and in 1847, it happened, La Batalla de Chapultepec, which is highly memorable for Mexico. Next slide, please. So after that, after the 2 years of war, in 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe was established. It is officially named as the Treaty of Peace, Friendship, Limits, and Settlement between the United States and the Mexican Republic, but it bears the name of the city on which it was created and signed unofficially. And it was spearheaded by Nicholas Trist without the permission of Washington. So he like sort of took leadership to settle things down, even though Washington D.C. called him to get back So he decided to stay and make it happen. The treaty, it doesn't only deal with the territory limits or the boundaries between the Republic of Texas and Mexico, it also deals with issues as citizenship, land rights, slavery, territorial limits, and as of now, it is the longest withstanding document between the two nations. And let's keep in mind that all this was by using the Historian map, which we'll talk more about that later. Next slide. So on the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, it stated that the boundary division would take place here on the east coast, from the Rio Grande all the way to Paso del Norte. And then from there, go up 8 miles till it hits Rio Gila. Then from there, all the way to the west, hitting Rio Colorado, and then following the existing line between Atahua and Baja California, which sounds simple, right? By using the correct map. That's also important because Casillas is going to explain to me the mission.
So one of the most important points of the treaty was the establishment of boundaries between Mexico and the United States. For this, the Emory Salazar Commission was appointed. William Emory, he was a chief officer, a chief engineer officer during the Mexican-American War, and he basically knew gained a lot of knowledge in the southwest region. His skills in military reconnaissance made him the best candidate to represent the American Commission. On the other side, Jose Salazar, he was a mathematical engineer who knew a lot of geodetic and topographic methods for map making. So he was appointed on the Mexican Commission side. Even when they faced their own challenges in their own commissions, they were able to create a good relationship between them. At first, in the first stage of the execution of the project, they were working separately. The Mexican Commission on their side, American Commission on their own side, but they just would make sure that they agreed on the points that they surveyed at the time. Later on the second phase, they were able to coordinate better and assign regions between the two commissions, and which is one of the most important characteristics of engineers to be able to coordinate. They foreshadowed the friendly international relations between the two nations as well. So when the second phase took place in January 1851, the Mexican Commission started to survey to locate in the El Paso del Norte, which was one of, according to the treaty, was going to be the starting point for the boundary towards the west. However, they found that the El Paso del Norte was mislocated from the map. It was actually 32 minutes latitude and 2-degree longitude, which was about an area of 3,200 square miles. So they were able to talk to their respective government, and finally they decided that they were going to establish their starting points in whatever the coordinates the sort of map said. So they started surveying that line in 1851, and it stayed as it was. This is a picture of where the first point, where that point was located initially. Then, as the United States learned of the strategic location of La Mesilla, they were already projecting some civil engineering projects, which was the railroad, and it was strategic because it could communicate east to west and south north. So they got interested in La Mesilla region. So when the American government expressed their interest in this area. So originally, here was the starting point of the boundary, but then this was La Mesilla, so they want this region to be able to bring the railroad and connect to California with the east side. So they sent James Gadsden to negotiate, and were able to purchase this area in what we in Mexico we know as La Mesilla, el Tratado de La Mesilla. And so they were able to establish the boundary as starting with the marker 1 right here, and then it stands as it was established. Now Victor, that is going to explain a bit more.
By the Gadsden Purchase, or Tratado de la Mesilla, as it's called in Spanish, the Salazar Commission and the Emory were able to complete the final leg of the project. It entitled them to be able to pinpoint the exact location of the marker, which we'll be sending tomorrow, and it was set in place. Traditionally, as these two men were working along, they had come to make it a tradition to actually bury all the documents that they had worked on along the way. Every time they said they made a new marker, they would actually bury the documents underneath the marker, and before they move on to the next leg. And so, I'm not sure if it's still there, but there used to be underneath this marker buried the original documents of all their work. The exact coordinates of the marker at which we stand are 31 degrees north, 47 minutes, and west, 106 minutes off the Greenwich, or 106 degrees, 31 minutes off the Greenwich. And in 1966, the obelisk got the status of landmark by ASCE, and it carries it to today. Next slide, please. Currently, the monument stands, as you can see here. A lot has happened since then, since it became a landmark. And originally, the line between Mexico and the United States should go right down the middle of this thing, up on the other side and down, and right through it. However, right now it's considered this all within Mexican territory, and this is due to the damming of the river. In this picture, if you would imagine yourself there, this is Mexico. This is the United States here. Back there, you can see the dam just right here west of El Paso. And that dam is used to control the distribution of water between El Paso and the Ciudad Juarez, which is, by the way, used to be the old Paso del Norte. So that's an interesting point. The border itself spans over 1,954 miles from the Gulf of Mexico all the way to the Pacific coast, south of the Port of San Diego, as it was stated by the Treaty of Lugar de Hidalgo. And along the way, in the past, the nations got along so well that it was just every so many feet or every so many miles, they would place a marker. You know, obviously they would bury documents, place a marker. And even till today, there are some spots in the fences. But like I said, now there is fencing in some areas. Some areas are, just signaled by signs. And some of the original markers are still standing, which this is actually kind of fancy. Back then it was just a pile of rocks. A pile of rocks with maybe both flags on, coming out of the pile of rocks. Today, the International Boundary and Water Commission regulates the border between the United States and Mexico, and they're in charge of the interpretation of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, as long as the rights to the water on both sides. Next slide, please. So the monument itself, what it means. Today, it stands, and most people would probably look at it, and it's off ground. It's off bounds for most of us. As we'll see tomorrow, we have to shuttle there. But if most people would be able to travel there and see it, they would just maybe see a pile of concrete, marking something that happened a long time ago. But to me, as an engineer, it means much more than that. It means it's a symbol of the fruits of the effort by both men, and what a civil engineer can do and transgress all differences, no matter what language it is, as long as you're willing to work together and stick to your ethics and integrity. And so was the case back when, in 1853, and it's still today. And it has been a symbol of the long-lasting peace and friendship between the two nations. As my partner Andres said, it is the longest withstanding document between both nations. And I invite you today to commemorate this obelisk with a plaque to mark the rest of time. Thank you.